Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the threeohtake, where we talk all things Major League Baseball. Here's Kyle Corwin and Nate Reyes. It all starts right now.
Welcome back to the threeohtake, presented by SeatGeek. This is episode 479. I'll be your host, Kyle Corwin. I'm here with my co-host, Nate Reyes. Nate.
The World Series preview. This season has gone by so fast. It's so bittersweet. I think part of me is very distracted that it's not quite hitting me that the season has come to an end because my team's still in it. And I'm going to be sad in a few weeks. I'm going to be very sad.
Yeah, you're in a very unique situation. Like you said,
strange spot.
Your team's obviously in this thing, but for us fans who don't have a dog in the fight necessarily, like today, for example, I'm getting notifications on like possible off-season trade moves that could go down. I'm like, I don't have a dog in the fight, but I don't want to hear this right now.
Yeah, we're not ready for that. Yeah.
Say there's still baseball on. In fact, we're gearing up for quite possibly one of the better World Series we've seen in recent memory. Can we just please like one more week?
Just hold off
before we dive headfirst into the off-season stuff. That's all I ask.
Unreal.
How you feeling, man? Just lay it out there.
This week's going by very slow. It's going by very slow.
Has it sunk in yet? Has it sunk in?
No, to be honest, no. It hasn't. I'm one of those guys specifically with like merch. I'm not really interested in getting any World Series gear until after. Just because like I don't know, it could be a bad memory, one. Like I do have the one thing I ever did it, and I don't know why I did it, but I got a hoodie outside of Yankee Stadium in 2017. And it was like Unite in the Bronx or whatever. And it says 2017 on it. And I'm like, I hate wearing that. I don't know why I have, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So like if this ends in a poor way for me, like I'm not going to want any of that merch. So it's not like I've been shopping for merch. Everyone's asking me like, you know, what my plans are. I'm going back and forth. One of my buddies, shout out Colin. Colin, if you're listening, sorry, buddy. But he texted me, he's like, we should watch the game somewhere Friday. And I'm like, I don't know if I can be in public at all for these games. Like I think I might need to stay at home. Is that okay? Is that a normal thing? Am I crazy for feeling or thinking
That's how
that way?
I am. No, and I'd be curious if our listeners kind of agree here. I'm the type of person, the bigger the game, the more
private it needs to be.
The more private the viewing needs to be. 2018, I watched that World Series in my apartment with nothing but a Red Robin burger there.
Yes.
Just me, myself, and I.
The takeout play is big too.
The takeout, just sitting there watching the World Series, nobody around.
Yeah.
So I can't
I'm gonna have
blame
to
you.
tell Colin no. I'm gonna have to tell him no.
I think
don't
he
even
already
want him
knows.
to come here.
No,
I don't want him. Yeah.
I think he already knows.
I want to settle in. What do I eat? All of this is like, it's just being mapped out. It's being planned. What jersey am I gonna wear? You know, like so far I've been wearing the Judge jersey. Do I start mixing in, you know, other jerseys? Do I get a little Jeter magic in there? Do I get some Mickey in there? I don't know. There's a lot going on in my head. The nerves are starting to set in. I'm going to be unwell on Friday. I'm going to be miserable at work. It's going to be tough.
You're going to be sweating profusely. You're going to need You're probably going to be downing a container of Pepto-Bismol.
Yeah. We should look into
I
maybe
worry for
getting
your
like
health.
a Tums sponsorship / partnership thing going on. Tums it's like a key ingredient in my household. It's like, I don't know what container is larger, the Tums container or the garlic salt container. You know what I mean? Like they're both very big, taking up very important places in cabinets. Well, anyway, I'm good. I'm just nervous.
So I guess there's no real chance that if this thing maybe goes like a game 7, that we do like a game 7 live stream. You don't think there's
Yeah, it'll have to be like the not suitable for like the NSFW.
I mean, that could
warning.
play. That
It could
could play.
be, you know.
I'll allow it. If you're willing, I just didn't even bother asking because I didn't know if that was a possibility. But if you're willing, we could commit right now. If this thing goes 7, we do live stream.
It would have to be not a 2-way. I wouldn't want to communicate with anybody. You can just set up a camera. I'm not looking or talking to anyone.
That would be great, actually.
You could narrate me. In
Yeah,
a
just
way.
mute the thing.
Yeah.
And I'll just sit there. Yeah. Heck, I could even let some people on the stream if they wanted to.
Wow.
We could have fun with it. But Nate, let's not beat around the bush any longer here. Let's get into it.
Okay.
Dodgers, Yankees coming to you this Friday for the first time in 43 years since 1981. Do you know what? This is the 12th time these two teams have met in the World Series. You know who holds the series lead in that situation?
I don't actually. I'd probably 81.
No,
I'd guess
just like
Dodgers.
No, I'm saying like they've met 12
That's the last
times.
one. Yeah.
They've met 12 times. So
Because I'm thinking of like when the Dodgers went out to LA and win. Are we counting Brooklyn or is it just LA Dodgers? It's another fair question. These are parts of the.
I didn't confirm.
Yeah,
It just
parts
said,
of the equation.
it just said 12.
I'm going to give the edge to the Dodgers.
In the 11 World Series that these two teams have met, the Yankees are actually 8-3.
Really?
So it bodes well for you and your Yankees.
I don't know if any of that matters, but I'll take it. I will take it.
Well, talk to me. I mean, obviously, those previous 11 World Series have no impact on this matchup whatsoever. But given what we know going into this series, and we just kind of alluded to it, do you feel like we're going the distance with this? Given what's, I don't want to say what's at stake, but the star power that's at the table here for this series.
Yeah, I think so. Like, no offense against the Mets, but like I do think the Yankees are a better team than the Mets. I think they have better pitching. And, for the Mets to get 6 out of it, I feel like we're going at least 6. So I think it's going to be a long one. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be entertaining. I think it's going to be fun. I mean, I'm in a world where I'm just like, I can't really imagine it being, disappointing or a letdown in any way. Like, this is such a cool thing for baseball, for sports, for fandom across the world. Like, I think I saw a notification today that the CSs were the most watched since 2017. I think this is going to break records, and I think it's going to have like the casual fan hooked as well. I think it's not just these two small teams, and no offense to get against like recent memory, we have to go back to like Rangers D-backs, and you're just like, those are just specific people that don't follow baseball know who Shohei Ohtani is. People who don't follow baseball know who Aaron Judge is. Like, these are names that just kind of exceed our realm a little bit, and I think that itself is going to bring in some eyes. So I'm stoked, man. I like, fandom aside, Yankee fandom aside, I feel like baseball is just so back. It's so back. I'm here for it. And this is like I'm not going to say like the first step in the right direction, because I think there's been a lot of things, as much as we complained, I think the pitch clock probably did more good than bad. I think it did a lot for speeding up the game, because it did attract some people that maybe weren't watching because of that and were watching anyway. So I think a lot of those steps have led to the right direction. We've gotten offense without changing the game too much. I think it's a slippery slope, and that's our argument over the last few years with these rule changes, is like, when does it end? Where does it end? But so far, like, those have been positive steps for new viewers, for people watching. And like, if people are watching baseball for the first time and sitting down, they're getting to see Yankees Dodgers, they're getting to see Shohei and Judge and two MVPs clash. Like, I feel like that could ignite something to continue to watch our game.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I do have a note here. This will be the first time in World Series history that both teams will feature a player who has hit 50 or more home runs that season.
That's pretty wild.
In total. Yeah, part of me is like, that's kind of hard to believe, but I mean,
yeah.
I guess not even in the steroid era were we getting this done. There will be 5 former position player MVPs in this series. Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge. And then also you have Game 1 starter Garrett Cole as the reigning Cy Young winner. Yeah, I mean, jokes aside, and dare I say bit aside, and we talked about it last episode, the magnitude, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but the magnitude of this World Series, I think has potential to really, really, for lack of a better way of saying it, take the sport to a new level, to a new height, that I just don't think you're getting with other matchups. Sure, you may get a fraction of it or a percentage point higher, in terms of where the game is at, the state of the game, but to have these two teams meeting, it's just, and what I was saying earlier, like, jokes aside, like, with Major League Baseball just foaming at the mouth for this.
Oh yeah, for obvious reasons.
Yeah,
you can't fault them.
You can't fault them. You can't blame them for wanting this, and not just wanting this at the start of the postseason. They've been wanting this for years. Just Dodgers, Yankees in general, but now you've got Shohei coming across town to play for the Dodgers. You've got Aaron Judge and having one of the most insane seasons we've ever seen. And then you've got Aaron Judge on the other side also having one of the most insane seasons we've ever seen. And need we remind you, that was with the slow start that he had. Yeah. So there's just so much at play here that I think really just adds juice to the narrative, to the series
there's a
itself.
lot of storylines. There's a lot of storylines, like the Verdugo Mookie connection. Judge being from California, Stanton being from California. Like, you're getting a lot of play here in a lot of different ways. It's any way you put it, everything I've listened to, everything I've read, everything I've watched has just been like, this, it can't disappoint, man. It can't.
Well, let's talk about
Murray, I love you, but I hate you for like 2 weeks. Potentially longer. Sorry. I'm not that sorry, but you got to understand.
It's understandable. Resident Dodgers fans, Murray in the chat. Let's talk about let's do a little bit of a breakdown here of each team. Maybe look at some reasons why a given team may win, why they may not win. And we'll start with your Yankees. And we'll specifically start with a guy that I've been ribbing you about for the last couple weeks, and for good reason. Like, again, bit aside, there's been some validity to what I've been saying with the whole, Captain Phillips meme, Stanton kicking in the door. Okay, I'm the captain now. Stanton has proven why he has, at least in the meantime, taken that throne. But let's talk Aaron Judge specifically, though, because I've seen a lot of commentary on this. I think there's a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people, but I've seen a fair number of people saying that Judge, I have a hard time making sense of this because of who he is and the stature that he has, but they're saying that he could be the X factor for the Yankees when in all reality, he's like one of the top 3 players in baseball.
Yeah. It's kind of a cop-out X factor choice.
Sure, but it speaks to his performance this year. I mean, he's 5 for 31, and he has 13 strikeouts.
Yeah,
to his name. So, I mean, what do we think here? Like, do we think that this is an opportunity for him to, or I should say, that the time that the team has had off? Do you think this has served as a time for him to hit the reset button, and be honest, like, try to set your bias aside? Do you think the postseason struggle bust narrative continues for Judge?
It felt like the at bats were looking better at certain times, and I think that I would count maybe 3 or 4 balls that could have changed the narrative. Hard hit balls. I think he had, you go back to the Royals series where I think that was the biggest struggle. I think he had 4 or 5 balls that were hard hit, which were over 95 miles an hour. You know what I mean? And there's certain, just baseball things that could change that. And if it, goes his way, we're not really talking this way as much. The strikeouts have been almost like the holes that Judge used to have that you hadn't really seen all year. You'd have to go back to that first month of the season where you were like, okay, so we're flying open on changeups down in, and we can't reach sliders down out. Fastball up in is struggling to get on top of. Those are the 3 spots where it seemed like he could still figure it out throughout the year, but this postseason, it tells me that he's trying to lift and he's trying to pull. And I'm hoping that this time has allowed him to kind of reset a little bit, talk to his goofy hitting coach, and get back in line. It's so hard to tell, man. I do love aspects of the break, but again, these guys don't get this much time off in between games. So I'm curious to see if Stanton stays hot. I'm curious to see if a Judge gets worse because of this break. You know what I mean? Or if the entire Dodgers offense cools down because of this break. So I don't know. I did have a note on him that, I looked at what on base percentage looked like when they were behind. Still at a 500 on base percentage so far through this postseason when the Yankees are behind. It does dip down to 381 when the team is ahead. So it's interesting that I don't know maybe he's a little surprised on how teams are attacking him and continuing to attack him, and like not really fearing him the same way he's used to over the season. It's kind of odd. It's kind of odd. I think all baseball fans hope for him to just go off, and him and Ohtani to just have incredible series, because that's really what this is about. This is the main storyline. You know, I want our best hitter to do his best. I want their best hitter to do their best, and, you know, kind of come down from that. So I'm really hoping, man.
Well, looking at the rest of that lineup, I mean, it's something that you hear all postseason, seemingly every postseason, is the importance of out-homering your opponent. This postseason, teams are 21-7 when they're able to do that. Last year, which is a winning percentage of 750 for those keeping track at home. Last year was 862. Teams were 25-4 when they out-homered their opponents. So, with that said, look and touching on the rest of the lineup as you were talking about, are you confident in the rest of that lineup being able to carry the weight in that way? Because Stanton, who had 4, Soto had 3, Judge, aforementioned Judge had 2. They hit 9 of the team's home runs, 9 of the 10 home runs in the ALCS. Judge aside, are you confident in those other guys to be able to continue to carry that weight?
I think that's obviously where the Dodgers have the edge. Like, you know, they're 1 through 9. You're watching guys that don't hit home runs hitting them. You're watching a Will Smith hit 8th. You know what I mean? Like, there's definitely pop throughout. The Yankees are playing very differently. They're walking a ton. And I love that some of those guys are walking, but like certain guys have to show up. Like Jazz needs to do something in this World Series. No pop from him.
147 with 11 Ks.
I don't expect much from Glaber in the role as a leadoff guy. It seems like it's really changed his approach, and I prefer this approach over him trying to lift. Anything from, you know, a Volpe or a Verdugo is basically a bonus. The big story, I think, is just how rough Austin Wells has been. You know, he struggled hitting 4th. He struggled following up Judge. That's a lot of why Stanton, on top of being super hot, has moved into the 4-hole. Like, there's a few more names that need to pop off. I did pull up a couple matchups. One that surprised me was Rizzo against Flaherty. Anthony Rizzo's 9 for 21 with 3 home runs for a 571 on base percentage against Flaherty. So
that's your game 1 starter right there.
There's, you know, some names that I think could potentially show up and provide some stuff. But yeah, it can't just be those 3. As incredible as they are, it's obvious that all 3 haven't been clicking together yet. Maybe they will. But the rest of the lineup, you know, certain pieces need to show up. If you can get 5 of the 9 doing their thing, you'd be pretty happy, because you got to expect at least 4 or 5 of the Dodgers being on top of their stuff throughout the game.
To do the same. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned Volpe. He's got a 459 OBP this postseason. Soto, we already talked about. I mean, his OPS is over 1,100. I mean, it's I'm confident that the guys who have been hot will continue to stay that way. But to your point, it's some of these other guys, and it sort of goes without saying, but you are going to need guys elsewhere in the lineup to help set the tone, or to get on base later in the game, set up some crucial ABs for some of these bigger boppers, and just hope that your pitching can handle the task, because Like you can't tout yourself as the Bronx Bombers and bring this offense in from the ALCS and then just fall flat on your face and
100%.
just hope to lay it all at the feet of your staff. You're just not going to be able to get it done.
Yeah. And again, like, I do think this is a really proven staff to this point. I think they've done really well.
They're taxed.
They're definitely taxed.
Your pen, your
definitely
high
taxed.
leverage
But this
guys
5
taxed.
days. It's 5 days off. Like, I'm expecting a fully healthy pen from both sides. I think it does come down to let's move past the one starter and like let's start looking at, okay, well, are you going to get length out of Yamamoto? How much of a leash do you give Bueller? One good start, nothing else really looked to be, super dominant. Is Rodon, more than just a hype man through 3-4 innings and then just kind of imploding and he has given up a few home runs. He has struggled.
Rodon and Cole are going to be two guys that Cole more so, but Rodon, those two are going to have to really ensure that they give you as much length as they can. And again, that sort of goes without saying, but with this tax, and I know that both teams have rest coming into this, but it's relative. I mean, you just look at the usage of these later inning guys from on the side of the Yankees. Clay, got a note here: Clay Holmes and Luke Weaver have appeared in 8 of the 9 postseason games.
Yeah.
So, given that, Weaver specifically has thrown, I saw 10 1/3, which is the most of any reliever this postseason.
See, that's the biggest thing for me.
That's worrisome.
That's the biggest thing for me is the number. A few episodes ago, I got pissed because it's how often Boone is using Weaver for multiple inning saves, and it's like that's not going to last throughout a 7-game set. It's good for maybe once or twice, but you can't continue to do that. So it is going to be interesting to see, does Luis Gil get a start? Do you use him as middle relief? They talked about Nestor coming back. Who knows what you get out of him? You got to hope for some left on left, good matchup stuff there, but you're not getting a ton of length.
How'd you feel about that quote, by the way? I don't know if you saw it, but they were asking him about coming back, and it was something to the effect of, if, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was like, if I go into the offseason with a ring, but I have to miss a year of baseball, like, so be it. I'm like,
I like it, man.
No, I mean, I love that mentality, but I'm like, I don't know. Like, when I hear that, I'm going, okay, if you're already banking on this being that severe of a situation,
how much quality are you really
what are you
bringing
really bringing to the table here?
Yeah, I get that. I definitely get that. There's just more bulldog, you know what I mean? Like, there's certain guys that just, I think, hype this clubhouse up and hype up in a positive way just for showing up and showing out. And he seems like one of those guys, and it's like a real gutsy kind of thing. But I don't know. It's not something I'm like fully banking on. I think it's obvious that Cole, Rodon need to be on their game. Can you get a decent start out of Clark Schmidt? Can Luis Gil eat innings in the middle of games to like get those tough situations out of Canely and Clay and Weaver? Because like, you can see what this Dodgers lineup can do if they're getting multiple views on those guys. And there's been some chinks in the armor with Weaver. There's been chinks in the armor, obviously, with Clay. Tommy Canely is a weird anomaly. He does walk guys, but like, I don't understand how we all know that changeup's coming, and it's still, guys aren't laying off of it. So, lefties are going to be huge in this. Tim Hill, Tim Meza, Nestor again. Like, those are big at bats. Those are going to be big moments, and curious to see just how things line up. So it's a taxed bullpen for sure. But the time off, I think, is going to help. And I think it does come down to, I think this series will come down to who's going to get that like bonus start, who's going to get that one middle of the series start that like almost rejuvenates the bullpen, gives them rest. I think that's the deciding factor here.
I would agree. That's a valid point and a valid focus that I think these two teams need to have coming into this. Like who are you going to be able to trot out there that's going to be able to give you that surprise bonus performance that you weren't necessarily expecting.
Saw Buehler in the NLCS, right? Like,
yep.
You know, you could see that type of performance, you know, from a Clark Schmidt, from a Walker Buehler, you know, those guys, like it comes down to it. Just kind of a flip of the coin. They're going to do it in different ways. The Dodgers are going to do it in different ways. And as much as I thought like Boone was quick to get to the pen, Dave Roberts blows him out of the water in that area. That man will go to the pen whenever he needs to, but for good reason.
Well, let's talk about the Dodgers here. Let's switch gears. Let's flip that coin, and let's talk about maybe some of the strengths and weaknesses, or maybe, who knows, lack thereof, that the Dodgers are bringing into this World Series. Because it goes without saying that, I mean, the offense we knew about, but the question mark that we all had coming into this postseason was the staff for the Dodgers, but since have erased any and all questions about, or at least major concerns about any problems they may bring on that side of the ball. So let me ask you this. What do you think, given that it seems as though both of those are serving as strengths for the Dodgers, which side of the ball is going to have to be better going up against the Yankees, given the strengths and weaknesses that they have right now?
Starting staff. I think the Dodgers starting staff needs to get some length, because like we've talked about, like the Yankees have done a really good job with getting walks, getting on base, getting to the pen. As good as the Dodgers bullpen has been, you need some rest there. You need some bonus time from that starting staff. I would say that the offensive side, it's not like where any of us are surprised of what this offense is doing. You know, like I feel like that run support is going to be there, and I think that's why it's taken some pressure off of the starting staff. But at the same time, again, this Dodgers offense is going to be seeing better pitching than they saw in the NLCS in my mind. So is there some neutralizing that's going to happen there? If so, you need better starting pitching.
That's a tall ask for these starters coming out of LA. Flaherty, Yamamoto, and Buehler have combined to make 8 playoff starts, and 4 of those have lasted fewer than 5 innings. So I think that speaks to both the fact that they just haven't been as effective, and what you were saying earlier about Dave Roberts being quick to pull the trigger. It just hasn't made for a great recipe in terms of pen usage and pen rest.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like, I think if you can get to what the Dodgers are trotting out there as their top options or really their only options for starting pitching, then okay, let's try for the Yankees. Let's try to pick apart these relievers.
Yeah.
Who to their own credit have been pretty effective. I mean, they're the relief corps for the Dodgers 5-0, 3 saves, and a 3.16 ERA this month. So,
yeah,
there's gonna be a lot of weight that falls on the shoulders of these starts for LA for sure.
But if this offense continues to do what they do, I don't know how much it matters, man. I was pulling some numbers together of like what each team does in scoring when runners are in scoring position. And that's one of the biggest Achilles heels with the Yankees is not getting that big hit, not getting that clutch hit. Yes, we've seen home runs that are late in games to kind of swing the momentum back their way. But the Dodgers are nuts. So far in this postseason, they're hitting .311 with runners in scoring position. 33 for 106. Yanks are 180. 13 for 72.
Well, maybe not necessarily with runners in scoring position, but with runners on, I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention what Shohei's been doing. 7 for 11.
Yeah.
With 5 walks. I believe. Yeah, this postseason.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean,
what's cool about this, and you know, like, to be fair, like, the more interleague games we've seen during the regular season helps these numbers, but like, what's so great about the World Series is that like it's so unpredictable because they haven't seen each other a lot. Like, there's almost nothing to pull up matchup wise for Judge. There's almost nothing against Dodger pitchers. But some notable ones, like I wrote down, like surprise things that you would see. Soto struggles against Flaherty, 1 for 9, 3 punch outs.
Those are two big egos going up against one another.
Yeah.
So I could see how maybe there'd be a little bit of struggle there.
Freddie Freeman, 7 punch outs and 20 ABs against Garrett Cole. Mookie against Rodon, 1 for 19. Yeah. So just like some surprising weird ones. Something weird, Mookie versus Garrett Cole is 7 for 17, but 6 of those are singles. And it's almost like if you're holding Mookie to a single, you're kind of happy. I looked up certain splits that I wanted to make note of. Garrett Cole, righties are hitting 370 this postseason off of him. 0 strikeouts.
That's concerning.
You got some good righties in there. Mookie, Teoscar are a problem.
Yeah. Yep.
But versus
agree.
lefties, Freddie Ohtani, Muncy, put those guys in that conversation. Lefties are hitting 243 against Garrett Cole, 12 punch outs. So it's like this weird, normally you see, dominance right on right, and right left is typically the matchup you don't want to see if you're Garrett Cole, but it's been better that way. Rodon really struggling with runners in scoring position. Hitters are hitting 300 against him with runners in scoring position. Same thing of like a weird split. Righties are hitting 320 off of Yamamoto in the postseason. 2 home runs. Flaherty kind of going with it. Struggles against lefties. Has given up 7 hits, 4 walks. But I think, going back to what we talked about, like the dominance of the back end of the bullpens for both sides. I know we've been talking Luke Weaver. I know the narrative around Clay Holmes has kind of been up and down all year. But I look to the Dodgers side, when they're up, when they're leading, batting average against for Kopech, 091. Batting average against Vesia, 100. Batting average against Phillips, 130. And none of them have given up a home run while they were leading.
Do we know if he's going to be back?
I don't know. That's what I was curious when I wrote it down.
What's the latest on that?
Let's see here. Rosters are out, right? I'm assuming they're out at this point.
I didn't see anything about rosters.
I thought they had to be real. Oh, what's today?
Today's Wednesday.
I keep thinking it's Thursday.
Yeah, it'll be tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, if they can get him, and they can get, I mean, he put forth the 176 this year. So if they can get even a fraction of that, just as another option, later in games, combine that with Kopech. I mean, you got, and again, to reiterate, you need as much depth, as much length as you can get in a 7-game series, especially a series that, assuming things go to plan, is going 6 or 7. I just don't see any other way that this thing goes.
That's the thing, man. Like, we go old school with this mentality. Like, starting pitching has to play a factor at some point. It definitely does in a 7-game set. And I think that's where this is what it comes down to, is like these star power hitters, these star lineups, who gets more looks on the other team's bullpen? Who's able to do something late against that other bullpen? And the less starting pitching you get early in the series, the more bullpen you're going to see. It's just how it goes. And these guys are so good. These hitters are, I mean, we're watching. I mean, we run down the list. You got Judge, you got Soto, you got Mookie, you got Ohtani, you got Freddie Freeman. I would say 5 top 10 players in baseball. Is that fair? I don't think that's crazy.
No.
5 top 10 players in baseball on the field at one time. Garrett Cole may be in that conversation, but like, those guys are bona fide top 10 players. And they're all really, truly Hall of Famers. They know how to hit, man. So like, if you can see these guys multiple times in a series, it's going to make an impact. It's going to matter. I'm so nervous, dude. Well, I mean, talking about it sucks, by the way.
You mentioned, I mean, we mentioned the obvious names. We mentioned, at least from, I mean, we're still talking Dodgers here. You mentioned Ohtani. You mentioned Freeman. You mentioned Mookie. I don't know how, like, if people, how closely they were watching the NLCS in particular. Obviously, you had Edman with the MVP.
Yeah.
He hit 407, had 11 ribbies, a 1022 OPS.
Yeah.
But Max Muncy had an OPS of 1363.
I know.
And Shohei and Betts had similar numbers there. But like Edman and Muncy, we talk about the rest and the impact that it may or may not have on guys. If they can just keep rolling right on through, that makes this lineup that much deeper. A lineup that we already know is deep. But it's just a matter of when you catch that lineup. Are they hitting a little bit of a lull? Are they in the middle of a bad streak?
Right.
Or are they building off of that confidence that they built the series before? We'll obviously find out, but if that answer is yes, I'm sorry, Yankees pitching staff, but
I know
you've got your work cut out for you.
Yeah, I have. I mean, if we're being totally honest, I have fears of when I've seen this Yankees team implode. I've seen this Yankees team completely fall on their face. I've seen certain names disappear and just go dark. I've watched it multiple times this season. And I don't know. I have no idea if it's going to show up. It sucks. Like it could. And I think maybe Dodgers fans could speak something similar at certain points in this season. Like, you've watched it kind of all go away, but like, how much of that is blamed on injury? How much of that is blamed on not having any pitching? during the regular season. It's just like, I have no idea, man. You truly have no idea. These guys having, a week off before playing, that's abnormal. There's so many factors, giving Rizzo and Freeman more time to heal and kind of get strength back in that ankle and hand respectively. So like,
which I don't even think we technically mentioned, but Freeman is officially a go for game 1. So
yeah,
good news for Dodgers fans there.
That guy's a gamer. It's literally, I think he's only missed games for like the birth of his children. Like that guy doesn't miss games.
That guy posts for sure.
And it just shows you how confident the Dodgers are for him to sit out a few games during the Mets series. But, yeah, man. I can't speak for the Dodgers too much. I'm not trying to be negative here, but like there's certain things, I mentioned earlier, the Yankees really struggle with runners in scoring position. They struggle with runners on in general. They leave a lot of guys on base. Infield defense is questionable at times. You have, a slower, somewhat injured Rizzo at first. Glaber led the league in errors at second. Jazz playing a new position at third. Not a ton of arm strength from Volpe at short. I think Austin Wells, I genuinely think he's one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. He doesn't get a whole lot of love for it. But overall, like defense is a question mark, base running is a question mark, and the obvious, strikeout situation with them as well. So like there's questions there. We've seen the back end of that bullpen blow up. We've seen weird stuff from Garrett Cole this year. We've seen Rodon. I don't have a ton of confidence there, if I'm being totally honest. There's a lot of things there that could happen with the Yankees. Again, I haven't watched the Dodgers daily all year. They, Dodger fans could have certain things that they know of that, could be, it's rearing its head again. And you're like, no, please, I don't want to see that again. But you never know this time of year, man. I hope for a good, long, strong series, a good performance. I love when certain names you don't expect show up and be that X factor, but I also love the fact that we have so many stars in this series, and it's almost like one of them is going to have to show up and show out and be the storyline.
That's a good jumping off point because we got some questions that I want to get into. Right. Some of which are from me. We're gonna start off with I got some questions for you, and we can spitball back and forth. But a couple of these are specific to you and your fandom.
Yeah.
And then we got some DMs to follow. So
all right.
And then after that, we got to get into some predictions. So buckle up.
All right.
All right, my first question for you off the top here. Angel Shohei versus Dodgers Shohei. Is this World Series run for are we seeing a different side of Ohtani than we've ever seen before?
Yeah, in a way, because like with him not pitching, it's almost like he gets to entirely focus on hitting. And it's like he's got like another gear that no one knew about.
He even off the field, I think we've seen
seems fun. Like bat flips and like flexing and yelling, like things
we've seen. I mean, we've seen a side of him that I don't think we've seen before. Because did you see that clip of him when they were popping champagne after the LCS, and he he was laughing. He was just he was soaked in champagne, and I think I don't know who he was pointing to or talking to, but he was like, ha ha, hey, you're sober, and he's just like laughing and just champagne everywhere, and I'm like, I just don't know. Well, I do know there hasn't been an opportunity for us to really see that from Shohei, and I feel like the only real glimpse of a Shohei that has those layers peeled back was the World Baseball Classic, and in very, very short stints.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's really good, man. I like it. And let's face it, like, the language barrier aside, like, we just need more of Shohei. Like, we need to see, feel, and experience more of Shohei. He needs his own show.
Don't be fooled. That man knows more English than he lets on to.
Oh,
he
yeah.
knows.
Paige was asking me that. She was like, so, like, does he ever, like, talk during interviews? And I was like, no. And they've said this multiple times. Like, there's players that just, they don't want to slip up. They don't want to say something and embarrass themselves. And, like, they don't feel confident enough to talk in front of millions of people, which I totally understand. But she was like, well, when, like, the reporter's asking questions, like, he's nodding like he's understanding. And I'm like, oh, yeah, he knows. He knows.
Yeah, like the little Spanish that I know, like I could read street signs, but I'm not gonna sign a contract that's written in Spanish when like my life's at stake or something like that. I understand it from that point of view, but we see him out there chatting it up with guys on base. And there's more conversations that are had than I think we realize. Flipping the coin here, Aaron Judge. Win or lose, how do you think this World Series, just getting to this stage, will affect his legacy?
Win or lose?
Win or lose. Just being able to say that he at least got here, because I know that I've ribbed you about this for years now, but every time we get to the preseason, and we're making our picks and our predictions, I'm never really, up until this year, it's just constantly been like I don't care really what they did this offseason. I don't care what mentality they're coming into the season with. I'm paying zero mind to this Yankees team because they've given that their track record has proven us. Like, we're going back to 2009, the last time this happened. So it was very much in the realm of possibility that maybe we did see an Aaron Judge career without an appearance in the World Series. Sure. So the fact that he at least got here, albeit was dragged here by the rest of that upper half of the lineup.
Dragged a strong word, but sure.
Carried very heavily. Yeah, there was a lot of dead weight there.
Okay.
Maybe not dragged, but he was on life support. It was not up for debate. But win or lose, just being able to get here, being able to, similar to Shohei, like finally being able to have a chance to perform on this grand stage.
I can't answer that question because it's not the same answer for win or lose. Because Yankee legacy doesn't matter if you lose.
Valid point.
Like, we love Don Mattingly, but it's almost like you can't hate on him too much because he never got there. Now that Judge has gotten here, and if they do lose and he continues to struggle, and then that's how the career ends for him, that's not a good legacy. That's not going to work.
I like that answer.
If he wins, if he struggles and wins, we forgive the struggle. If he wins and dominates, Monument Park. Number retired. Like, all that stuff happens.
Oh.
They're all different answers. So Nate, that's my point.
That's fair. I kind of figured as such, but I just wanted to throw you a little curveball there, see how you responded. And I will say, similar to Judge, you handled it with grace. Handled it like a pro.
Thanks.
Nate, let's hop in the time machine and then we'll get into some DMs. Hop into the time machine with me. Fast forward to next week. World Series is over. Headlines. It was an instant classic. What happened? Who showed out? Who surprised you? what records were broken, how much, just all of it. Give me the copy to this front page story.
Oh man, dude, I'm struggling. Oh.
I mean, don't tease your predictions necessarily.
What does the headline say? Like, like what do you mean exactly?
It was an instant classic.
I think instant classic means this World Series puts baseball at the top and puts it as the biggest sport in the world. And I'm not saying forever, I'm not saying for, the rest of the year. I think there's going to be, I think this series will have everyone tapped in. I think it breaks records with almost like a unity and not just brings back the sport of baseball, but like affects generations. So it's a super long headline, but I think that's the kind of expectations I have on it.
That's fair. I put you on the spot there. I understand. I just want to see how you.
Is there enough room for that headline? Super small font.
Yeah, there's like subtitles there for sure. We're gonna have to break it up a little bit into pieces.
Yeah.
But let's get into some DMs. Shout out to those of you who sent in questions. We got some good ones on here. I think we can hustle through these. We got a handful of them, but we still got predictions left too. So we'll have to be quick. Joe asks, and I just want to preface this by saying some of these questions do touch on predictions at the end, and I didn't necessarily leave any questions out, or I tried not to leave any questions out. So if there's a little bit of redundancy, we'll address it in the prediction section at the end.
All right, deal.
Joe asks, we all know about the stars and what they provide, but there's always a lesser known guy that performs in big moments. Who do you think that will be that guy this series?
Should I give a guy for each team?
Just give a guy.
A guy.
We got some X Factor talk in the prediction segment.
I think Luis Gil is a weapon that not a lot of people know about. And I truly hope that Boone and the Yankees utilize him the way he needs to be utilized, because that guy is different. And when you watch him pitch, that guy is special. So, yeah, I think that's I think you're going to see some clutch stuff out of him. I don't know in what way, in what capacity, but give me that as like wow, I didn't know who that was, and now I do. And stop calling him Gil.
This very, very much a cop-out answer. Although maybe not as much, because I don't think anybody saw this NLCS performance coming. But for me,
you and I have been Tommy Edman guys for a while.
Exactly. And you can vouch for me on that. Like,
100%.
And the only reason I'm saying me is because this is the answer I'm going with. But I mean, I've been a Tommy Edman guy for some time.
100%. And
I don't think, like I said, I don't think we saw this MVP worthy effort coming out of this past series. And comparatively, probably a little lesser known than the rest of than the rest of that lineup, I would imagine. But yeah, I could see his success last week translating very well in the World Series.
Yeah, I like that. Dude's such a good athlete. Such a good athlete.
Little off-topic question here, but I wanted to include it because I thought it was interesting. Dusty asked, this is kind of irrelevant, but being as it didn't happen, but say it had been Yankees-Mets, would there still have been a travel day when the series moves to the other stadium?
Good point. I say yes. I think that's the TV standards.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, TV, the league itself. This is.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds silly, but like this is your Super Bowl. Like the World Series is like the pinnacle for Major League Baseball and its offices and personnel and all that. So even if they would have been next door, you want to be able to milk it out a little bit longer and have those added days where you can hit the reset button, you can get a little bit more media coverage, maybe some more sound bites,
right?
Build up some more stars or storylines. Yeah, they would be milking that for all it's worth, for sure.
I agree.
And they would have had fun with that too. The whole Subway Series thing, like,
oh man,
like we talked about, I would have been happy at this point with either team coming out of the NLCS going up against the Yankees.
I think this is better for baseball as a whole.
Sure,
but man, that still would have been fun.
Sure,
that still would have been sweet.
RJ asks when we and he provided a very long and thoughtful and thorough commentary beyond the question, but the gist was, when we reflect back on the most recent Dodgers World Series appearances, why do people try to delegitimize the 2020 World Series victory? Which is a good question, and I know it gets brought up a lot, but the Dodgers are back in the World Series, and I think it's important to talk about going into the series, because if they're unable to pull it out against the Yankees, that still becomes relevant. If they win it, you kind of, I don't want to say you don't forget about the 2020 title, but at least they can check the box and say, okay, for those who said it was illegitimate, what are you going to say about this one?
Right.
So it's still an important storyline even 4 years later.
It's tough, man, because like I see both sides of the argument. Like they got to give out a trophy. It's still, everyone still played. Everyone still had an opportunity. If the Marlins would have won, the Marlins would have been so happy about that trophy. So, but it is difficult because like that's so very much not our game. 60 game season is very much not, like, a little over a third of our season. It's just like there's so much that happened. There's so much that can happen in 162. There's so much that can change, and it's a tough one, man. It's a tough one. I feel bad for the Dodgers because it's like, what can you do? You're always going to be hated on. But at the same time, yeah, I can see why people feel that way. I personally think it counts. I'd be happy with it. But yeah.
Understood. John asks, why are there headlines and banners touting Judge versus Ohtani as if this is a tennis match? Well, John, and I mean this as genuinely as I can, we're talking about pretty much the undisputed best two players in baseball.
Yeah.
At this current moment in time. So naturally, you're gonna want to promote those guys. You're gonna want to, and I'm not trying to be a little smart aleck here, but I'm gonna need people to understand from like a media perspective, from a business, a money perspective. This is just what you have to do. Even if you're tired of it as, say, like a media outlet, you're like, all right, how many more articles are we going to write with Judge being the face of the article?
Yeah.
It's like, it's just kind of what you got to do at this point, because with like we talked about, with a series of this magnitude, nobody's interested necessarily. Maybe some folks are, but the vast majority of people are not interested in reading about your 8 and 9 hitters coming into this series. It's kind of, a basic understanding of how these things work.
Like we said last episode, it never happens. It never lays out this way. Like, we never get it. You mentioned before, never had Two guys from, opposing leagues facing each other that had hit over 50 home runs in a season, like two MVPs. Like we just don't get these. We just don't get these. There's a reason why heavyweight, boxing matches, there's only, a handful that really resonate with you. There's a reason why UFC cards, you can let some Saturdays slide, and sometimes you just got to watch. Like, not all of them are created equal. Not all World Series matchups are created equal. This is big time. This is, again, top two players on the planet.
That's
but
really,
the tennis
really
match
it.
thing is, that's probably a pretty accurate description of the poster.
It's fair.
Yeah.
Fair question. Luther asked, lifetime Los Angeles Dodgers fans, but I have mixed feelings about Dave Roberts. He makes a lot of questionable calls. What is your guys' take on Roberts?
Yeah, man, we've mentioned it before. I think he's actually done really well this postseason compared to last postseasons for obvious reasons, getting here. But I see both him and Boone as just very similar guys, two managers that make questionable calls and a lot of ridicule. I don't think he's the greatest manager ever. I think this is more of a product of the roster than of Dave Roberts doing managerial decisions to get them here. I mean, we can see the amount of runs they put up against the Mets that it's, there's only so much keeping this lineup down that you can do. And there's not much else other than just writing it in ink and taping that to the wall that, Dave Roberts does. But there are some big decisions of, certain matchups and going to the pen at certain moments. I think that's a big factor of this World Series. I think you're going to see one or two of these, potentially both managers, making some questionable calls that are going to be maybe backlashed or maybe brought up afterwards, because that's what they're both known for. I don't know. You can speak to him a little bit better. I feel like you have that Red Sox connection. I know it's way back when, but like,
sure.
I think you have a soft spot for him, but like,
no, I mean, it's what I've always said about Dave Roberts, and you talk about him being on the hot seat for what seems like years at this point, and my take has always been the same. Like, sure, maybe he listens to upstairs, maybe a little too much at times, but at the end of the day, I would caution Dodgers fans to be careful what you wish for, because I would venture to say that there's a lot of franchises out there that would love to have Dave Roberts sitting in the manager's seat. Yeah. So, I mean, you can pick apart specific decisions all you want, but it's just hard for me to really. And yeah, I do understand that a lot of it is based on the talent there and the roster construction for sure. But like I just have a really hard time sitting there and saying that Dave Roberts is actively holding this team back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would agree.
It's just tough. It's tough. Maybe Dodgers fans feel differently, but like I said, I just think a lot of teams would be over the moon to have a guy like Dave Roberts. Yeah. That's all. We sort of touched on this a little bit earlier. Joe asked, why is Boone staying with Wells in the cleanup spot? Enough is enough already.
Yeah, a valid point. I mean, we saw it towards the end of the series that Stanton was in the 4 spot for a little while. They brought Wells down in the lineup. I think he hit like, I want to say like 7th or 8th, and he actually hit a home run. I mean, there's a stubbornness about Boone. There's a stubbornness about sticking with his guys. There's a lack or maybe a reluctance of change at times. You did see Trevino get into one of those games as well, or almost give him a little bit of a break. But I think it's that alongside the fact that like no one's all like outside of Stanton, no one's really stepped up to be that guy, specifically amongst the lefties. You know, Rizzo, Verdugo, Jazz, like none of those guys have been like, I'll take this and I'll give you the no-brainer right, left. And, you know, continuing to give Wells a shot. Because he did do well, you know, the last month or so in that spot. But yeah, that's just stubbornness. That's one of the things, man. It's just like, that's my question mark, specifically with Boone, is that like, are you gonna give opportunity to Wells, and like, when do you draw the line? Same with Verdugo. You know, is there a point where you can say, let's give Jason Dominguez a shot because Verdugo struggled? Luckily, Verdugo's looked pretty good and he's played really good defense. So like that question mark hasn't really come up, but it could. So it's just stubbornness. That's all it is. It's Boone being Boone, similar to our last DM. You know, mixed emotions, diehard fan, but mixed emotions for your manager. I miss the days of Mr. T.
Dennis facetiously asked, will you slob Shohei's knob the entire preview episode?
Wow. I don't think
know.
we talked about him that much.
I feel like we've handled it pretty well.
I think we bounced around quite a bit.
I'd give ourselves, in terms of the amount of slob, I'd give ourselves a B plus.
Yeah.
I don't think we were over the top with
I don't think so.
I mean, we still got predictions, but
if he comes out for like to like close a game, that's gonna be nuts though.
It's gonna break the internet.
I know. I really hope that doesn't happen. I kind of do, but I kind of
could
don't.
you
don't.
Could you imagine Game 7?
Oh, and he's closing down the game. That
Shohei
would be...
Ohtani comes through the outfield doors.
Oh, I don't want that. I can't.
Could you imagine? And it would be in LA too. It's almost like Major League Baseball has been thinking about this for some time. Maybe it's in the script. We'll see.
Maybe.
George asks, who needs to have the biggest impact in order for their team to win outside of each team's big three? I think we'll sort of touch on that a little bit with the predictions, so we'll hold that aside. Tom asks, can they both lose? Fair question, Tom. I think a lot of people are asking that same question.
That's fair.
But you know, Tom, all I would ask is, you know, if that's how you really feel, which is, you're more than welcome to feel that way, just still try to watch.
Just watch. Yeah.
Don't be one of the people that's like, I want both teams to lose, and by the way, I'm not watching a single minute of it. We did a whole spiel on that last episode.
I agree.
And did what we could to convince folks to spend time. It'll be worth their while. To watch this series, and I think so. I firmly believe that. Murray asked, do you guys have superstitions while watching your team play during the playoffs? I wouldn't know. It's been missed it 5 out of the last 6 years, so I don't know. It's a little rusty there. So maybe I'm not the best person to ask.
I don't wear red when the Yankees play. Nothing red. No articles of clothing that are red. Not like I have a ton of red stuff. I do have like a rotation of like 7 or 8 pairs of underwear that I prefer over my other pairs of underwear, one of which is red. I'm not wearing it right now. I think I wore it yesterday. I think I wore that yesterday so that it would be in the hamper.
Nice.
And not in the drawer. You know what I mean?
Smart.
I think that's my only thing. Like, obviously I'm wearing something, you know, like a jersey or a hat. I'll probably wear something different after a loss. But yeah, overall, that's nothing like weird superstitious wise.
That's fair. Like I said, I'm the wrong person to ask. That's postseason superstitions aren't even on my mind at this point. I've kind of forgotten anything that I do. I mean, you go back to, like I mentioned, you go back to 2018. I guess you could say, like, I really love, using that as like an excuse to treat yourself during the week, because I'm like, life is good, man. We're in the World Series, so I'm gonna get some takeout. I'm gonna bring it back.
I'm stoked. I'm really stoked for Friday. I'm really stoked. I don't even know. Like, the food is gonna be. I'm just gonna be chilling. It's gonna be silent. It's gonna be I might have to do a couple Wi-Fi checks before, just to make sure. I do have the iPad like close by, in case the TV gives any issues.
Okay, fair,
like there's things that I'm gonna fall back on.
Are you like, is Paige having like a girls' night or something? Like, or
TV? What? No, our TV's been weird, man. Like, it keeps messing with the volume.
No. I'm saying, is Paige having a girls' night? Like, is she gonna be? Are you like basically kicking her to the curb for this?
No. She can be here. She'll be here.
She's part of the deal. Okay,
all
fair
out.
enough.
Yeah.
I just didn't know like how
I'm just
like secluded you want.
I really am a misery after they lose, though. Like, I do feel for her if that's the case.
I mean, I feel it just in like texting you after big losses. I can't imagine like actually being there. That's that's tough.
Our pillows, our pillows on the couch really do take a beating during tough moments in the game.
As long as it's the pillows, just keep it at the pillows, Nate. That's all I ask. Spencer asks, it's a great question, and then we'll get into predictions. Which franchise needs this World Series more? And this is such a good question, because you could make an extremely strong case for either team.
You really could.
The Dodgers need this World Series to justify their winning ways and to maybe validate their 2020 title a little bit more. And the Yankees need this because how long has it been?
15 years. I mean, I feel like you should probably answer this question. I'm gonna say Yanks. The Yanks, we need this, man. Like, I need this personally. We need this. We really, really. I won't be well. At least if you're in LA, you're like, we lost. Oh no, I have beautiful weather and the beach. I'm gonna go, be sad on the beach. Like, what do we got?
Jokes aside, at least on the field, like, sure, they get the weather and all that, but for that franchise, you would like to imagine that this window is just nowhere opening. Close to being over or closed. Point. So you'll still have a chance to validate that 2020 World Series and to get back to your World Series winning ways. The Yankees,
you don't know.
There's a guy by the name of Juan Soto who may or may not be there next year. So you could look at this as maybe your only shot until another 15 years down the road where maybe you get back in.
You're just putting so many things in my head. It sucks.
Nate, you're going to be, let's do the math, 15 years from now, you'll be
46.
46.
Yep.
Good luck, buddy. You better hope they do it this year. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there in the universe. If they don't do it this year, just buckle up for another 15.
Buckle up for a brutal episode with your boy.
I can't wait. Jeff asks MVP predictions, which is the perfect segue into our final little segment here. Let's get into some predictions here, Nate. We sort of have touched on this, but we're gonna get our official picks in. If the Dodgers win the World Series, the X factor will have been
I'll say Flaherty. I think he's got to really show up, show out. The bats are going to do what they do. I think you expect that. I think you see that coming. But I think again, like I keep going to that mid-series start that plays such a huge role. And I think if the Dodgers win, he would be the reason. Not MVP, we're saying X factor, right?
X factor.
Yeah. I'll say Flaherty.
I sort of already gave my pick earlier, but Tommy Edman, I think if that's yet another guy that you can squeeze a little bit of juice out of for this final week of games.
Yeah.
Add that to the mix of what they've already got going on there in that top half. That'd be huge for them.
Yeah.
And not to mention, just looking at the vibes, like if you got a guy who's fresh off an NLCS MVP and he just picks right back up where he left off, that's huge, especially for establishing momentum early in the series at home.
Yeah,
that'd be a huge boost.
Yeah,
to that team. If the Yankees win the World Series, the X factor will have been.
I'm gonna say Jazz Chisholm. I think it's because of what he can do on the bases, speed, occasional pop. I'm actually pretty impressed with how he's done at third base. Just picking up and doing it and playing pretty well. Yeah, there's been a couple tough plays, but like overall, the guy's a cannon. So yeah, give me Jazz with some potential pop, some big play of, scoring from first in the gap and maybe a couple swipes. He brings a lot of athleticism that just we haven't gotten a chance to see because he's not doing anything offensively. So yeah, I think he would be an X factor.
I'm gonna go Carlos Rodon for reasons we talked about earlier.
Good one.
You would like to think, as a Yankee fan, you would hope that Garrett Cole is just going to give you what he is capable of giving you. But as I mentioned, Carlos Rodon is going to be next up in line in terms of importance of giving you length to take the burden off of that pen. Because you also have to take into account that Cole is going to get more opportunities there, given the structure of the schedule and rest days and all that. So if you're Carlos Rodon, you're going to have to maximize your opportunities here. The stints that you do get, the starts that you get, and possibly some weird relief appearance late in the series if it gets that far. So that's going to be big for him. He's going to have to keep his tongue in his mouth.
Yeah, he's got to keep his emotions in check for sure.
And just suit up and just pitch.
Yep.
That's what he has to do. All right. Your winning team, and in how many games?
I'm going Yanks in 7. I think the pitching will be the difference. I think it is going to find a way to neutralize this offense just a little bit. I'm not saying Dodgers are going to be held down by any means, but I do think the Yankees pitching is going to find a way to make this obtainable for the Yanks. And I think Judge is a big reason for it. I think there's this reset that he's able to hit here. I think there's this calmness that he's going to be able to say, hey, we're here and let's send it, and give me Yanks in 7 with Judge hoisting the MVP trophy.
Oh, you're skipping right ahead to the MVP. You said you're giving it to Judge.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's nice. I look, I know I just got done talking about, earlier in the episode, I got talking about is this an opportunity for Judge to hit the reset button? Is he gonna get back to Judgian ways? The answer is no. And I know I just got done talking about Carlos Rodon needing to just really show out. Don't think that's going to happen. So for a couple of those and additional reasons, I'm going to go Dodgers in 6. I think the Dodgers proved that, or I think by throwing multiple bullpen games and having success with that, it lessens the concern for me on just how effective the starters need to be. Although it doesn't take away it completely. I do want to reiterate, like the starting pitching for the Dodgers has to be as good as they can be and give you whatever length that they can give you. I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm worried there a little bit on the innings, but because they were able to go with what turned out to be like regularly scheduled bullpen games against some tougher opponents, we'll say. I'm not all that worried on that side of the ball, and I don't need to repeat myself on what that offense is capable of doing. So I'm going Dodgers in 6. My MVP is going to be Teoscar Hernandez.
Yeah, I like that. I could see that. Dude's a stud. I'm so nervous.
My last question here for you.
Yeah.
Bigger picture. Bigger picture prediction here. This World Series will go down as a top blank World Series in the last 25 years. Just take it back to 2000.
Top 3. Yeah.
Fire me up. I love it.
Top 3.
I don't know how people are struggling to get excited about this World Series. I don't have a dog in a fight, and I'm ready for it.
It's going to be good, man. It's going to be really, really good. If you get full-blown Yanks and you get full-blown Dodgers, they've shown throughout the year that these are two heavyweights that belong where they're at. And it's just about all of execution. And then all the cards being shown on the table, man. Oh, I'm so nervous.
Love that. Well, on that note, let's wrap it up there. This is good. Looking forward to it. Lock it in, folks. This is the last baseball you're going to get. Hate him or love him. I would hope that your love for baseball transcends whoever's in the World Series. So lock it in because you love this game. Lock it in because we're going to be witnessing some star-studded baseball. And lock it in because we told you so.
For all those listening, watching, as well as Aaron Judge, don't go chasing curveballs.
Boom! We love you all, and as always, looking forward to talking more baseball with you guys soon. Until next time, stay filthy.